Today's episode is all about how to earn more Capital One miles for future trips. Because if you've ever felt like you're not earning points fast enough, this is going to help you change that. We're diving into simple, realistic ways to build up your miles and how to actually use them to travel more as a family. Welcome to the Savvy Travel Moms podcast. If you are a mom who wants to travel more with your family without spending a fortune, you're in the right place. I'm Michelle, the bougie one.
Joy, the practical one. We are two moms with different travel styles, but the same savvy mindset. In our show, we will break down family-friendly travel tips, points and miles, and realistic strategies that fit into a busy mom life. From hotel robes and room service to free breakfast and budget wins, we will help you turn everyday life into unforgettable family memories.
Real moms, real travel, real strategies. Whether you are just getting started, working towards Disney, or are ready to take your points to the next level, this episode is for you. We're going to break this down into how to earn more miles consistently, how to maximize things like Capital One offers, and one of the easiest redemption tools out there, the Purchase Eraser, which is honestly a game changer for family travel. If you've ever thought, I'm using my card, but I'm not earning that much, this episode is going to help you fix that. So how's it going, Joy? How are you doing?
It's good. I am so
Good.
excited about this episode because I feel
Me too.
like we've spent the past few episodes talking about all these amazing Disney hacks, which I learned so much more about Disney from doing that deep dive on it. And
Yep.
I've always known the Capital One card was super vital to being able to hack Disney. And so this just felt like a natural follow-up on after those episodes. So if you have not tuned into our Disney episode yet, back up and go listen to the past 3 episodes because they are some mind-blowing nuggets of gold in those.
They really are so good. I feel like I wasn't super hooked on Disney. You know, we went and I loved it and I wanted to keep going more. But like after hearing Chelsea talk about it, like how passionate she is about Disney, it just makes you realize like how amazing it really can be. And I really do want to go again sooner than later because it's so special. Like hearing her talk about like how special it is for their family. I just love that.
And now we need to earn a ton more Capital One miles so we can
Yep.
keep hacking Disney. So let's talk about how to earn those miles. First
Yep.
off, let's talk about the value of Capital One miles. And I want to hit Capital One miles are the same as points. It's just what they call their currency for new people starting out when you're like, why is it a mile at Capital One, but it's a point at American Express? Because they all call their currency something different. So the Capital One miles, if you have a handful of cards within the Capital One family, the points that you earn on it, the currency is called Capital One miles. So the cards that earn these super valuable transferable points are going to be the Capital One Venture, the Capital One Venture X, the Capital One Venture for Business, the Capital One Venture X for Business, and the Spark Miles card. So those are the main credit cards within the Capital One family that you earn these super valuable Capital One miles. And the reason why they are so valuable is because you can do so much with these points. So as you're using this card, it is really easy to use. It's 2 times back on every purchase that you make for
Yep.
the Venture and the Venture X, which are going to be the 2 we focus on today because those are the personal cards that most people are going to have. The business cards we're going to leave out there because it's going to be less likely that you have one of those business cards.
Yep. And go ahead, Joy. I was
No,
just going to
you're good.
say, I love that Capital One is that straight 2X because I think a lot of people that are just starting out with points and miles or are really busy and don't want to know a lot about points and miles, it's so nice getting that straight 2X because a lot of the other cards are maybe like 4X on grocery, but 1X on everything else. So like you have to keep track of things where like at least with Capital One, you're always getting 2X, which I really like.
I do too, and they're really easy. Like from a points perspective, the
Yep.
way that you can use the miles that you earn, I mean, you have 3 options. You can use them in the travel portal, you can erase a purchase if it's coded as travel, and you can transfer them to partner, which is when they unlock insane value. So I love that they're also easy to use and you have options. Like they're one of my favorite cards to use for theme parks, which I've talked about with you guys, especially in the Disney episode. And it just
Yep.
really does make a difference when you can have that points currency in your travel budget to be able to help cover attractions or cover an Airbnb or
Yep.
whatever way you want to use it. I keep those as my like things that I can't really pay other ways to cover those.
Yep. And with the card, you're still earning miles even as you're erasing. You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, like $1,000, theme park ticket purchase just earned you 2,000 more miles. So it's kind of nice, like when even though you're erasing, like you're still earning every time you put those purchases on the card. And it does start to add up pretty fast, the more that you put those on there.
It does. It does. And the welcome bonuses, like we all love a good welcome bonus, but once you use it, it's gone. So you have to figure out
Yep.
ways to replenish it. And the easiest way and the fastest way to replenish it is going to be Capital One offers. So I want to spend some time going through Capital One offers today because there are some tricks to navigating it and understanding how they work in order to get the most value out of those Capital One offers. A couple things that I've really been able to like maximize my Capital One offers for that just are kind of mind blowing to me are when my whole family went to Puerto Rico for Christmas and New Year's. There's 18 of us that went. I
Wow.
found a Viator offer on Capital One offers, and it was like, I don't even know, like 20 or 30 something times back per dollar spent. So I bought our entire family's rainforest excursion and had just had everyone pay me, and I ended up earning like 49,000 Capital One miles from that purchase because I found it on an offer.
That's
The other
amazing.
really awesome win I had was when we bought our Universal tickets. There was an undercover tourist offer for if you spend over $1,000, you got an extra 15,000 Capital One miles. And so our Universal Hollywood tickets were like $1,000 or like $1,075. And so I earned 17,000 Capital One miles just for that purchase. So,
That's amazing. And Joy, when you did both of those purchases,
mhm.
do you remember if you used your Capital One card? Because I know that's kind of a big thing people get confused about. And even I kind of do sometimes as well with those Capital One offers. We don't have to use our Capital One card, but they're more likely to code correctly the first time with those offers, getting those points if we use our Capital One card, right?
Yes. So I did for the really big ones because I wanted to guarantee I was going to earn those miles. Now, there
Yep.
have been some smaller ones in there that I've used it where it's been very hit or miss. Like Capital
Yep.
One offers always has airport parking options, and they have a lot of different airport parking options. So when I'm booking a trip and we're about to travel, I go to Capital One offers and I find the different airport parking. I don't know, there's a lot of different websites for airport parking. And I just
Yep.
pick whichever one has the highest offer and go that way. And those have always been hit or miss if I actually get my miles back on it or not. So
I
I've
know.
had better luck with my Capital One Venture card.
Okay. And I think that's maybe the only kind of downside would be if you're a family that's like lower expenses and lower spend. Let's say you're going to put, $1,000 purchase on there. And let's say you're working on a different card that has a $4,000 spend in 3 months. A quarter of that spend is going to go on your Capital One venture instead, even though you'd rather put it on the other card. But if you really want that big chunk of miles, it's probably a good idea to kind of forego it going towards your welcome offer just to be safe. Because I 100% agree. I haven't been lucky enough to get any of the big ones, but I agree. Whenever I don't use my Capital One card, it doesn't work all the time. And it's a lot harder to have Capital One track those miles because they're not seeing that purchase. So it's a
Mhm.
lot harder for them to give you those miles back later. So a lot of times I don't fight it. If it's like, oh, it's 100 miles, I buy a pair of shorts somewhere or something, I just let it go because it's not worth the headache of trying to fight with them for something small like that. But yeah, if you want to make sure you get those miles, you definitely want to use your Capital One card when you purchase.
Now, with Capital One, I do want to point out for the listeners here, there are two separate things. There's Capital One Shopping, which
Yep.
is an extension. It'll pop up and ask you to add like the Capital One Shopping tab, and it's a shopping portal where you can use your miles to purchase things. Absolutely not. Avoid that like the plague. That's not going to do you any
Yep.
favors. You want to hit
Yep.
on Capital One offers. So when you log into your Capital One account and you are looking at your credit card, like you're right on your main page where all the transactions are, before you get to the transactions, right at the top, there's going to be a little banner that says top offers of the day, like Capital One offers. And if you click on that banner, it's going to take you out to a new page where all the Capital One offers live. Now, navigating the Capital One offers page is a whole nother ballgame because it has some quirks to it. And Michelle, I don't know if you've noticed this or not. So first off, when you go to navigate the Capital One offers page, there's a search bar. But I've never had luck with the search bar because I find better offers by scrolling than using the search bar to find exactly the brand I want.
Yeah, I don't know if they have an algorithm or what it is, but they know what you're searching for and how often you're searching for it. So again, yes, for whatever reason, the search bar makes things a little bit weird. So you have to scroll, which is kind of annoying. And I've also heard of people going through, clicking on it like they're going to do it, and then leaving it for like a week. And eventually it will become a higher offer because Capital One really wants you to click through that and use their offer. So that's another little hack that you could do if it's not an urgent purchase and it's something that you're planning ahead, you're eyeing it, you want to see what happens. You could definitely click through it a few different times and see if eventually you can get Capital One to give you a higher offer on that.
They do targeted offer because when I did the undercover tourist offer, I was watching it because I was seeing Facebook groups. People were talking about this mega undercover tourist offer that they were seeing on their Capital One offers. I went back for like 2 weeks and every day, every other day was clicking into undercover tourist and it was only 2 times, 2 times, 2 times. And I'm like, oh, I want this offer. And I waited it out. And then I finally got the spend $1,000, get 15,000 miles offer, which made me, because that's a huge expense, right? And I wasn't going to erase it because I didn't have enough after buying Disney. So I went that route. Now, had I gotten it twice, which I would have loved, but I already purchased Disney, I would have been able to really do amazing had I purchased my Disney through that offer with undercover tourist, then used the purchase eraser, but I wasn't that smart back then. So
I know. And two, I think it can be frustrating because even I miss the offer sometimes because some of them go like really quick, like they're there and then like they realize, oh, 1,000 people just used it and then it's gone kind of thing. But I would say my other biggest tip for that would just be like, just make sure you're in some like Points and Miles Facebook groups, or like Joy and I will post on our Instagram if they're the really good ones. Like I don't usually post about the small ones unless I'm actually buying something, and then I'll post about it. But that's really kind of the best way. Like if you don't want to scroll every single day, would be to make sure you're in a Facebook group or following us on Instagram and watching for our stories, because we'll post about that. Because otherwise, yeah, I definitely do not check Capital One offers every single day. When I first started, I did because I thought it was kind of fun, but now I just don't have the bandwidth to do it. So I just wait for someone else to come along and be like, look at this amazing offer. And then we all jump on it. So if you see a really, really good one that has that really high multiplier, again, you're going to want to jump on that ASAP, because sometimes there are also glitches.
Yeah.
Like what was that one with was it British Airways?
There was British Airways and Kate Spade.
Yeah, and Kate Spade. It was like 250
Everybody
X.
earned like 300,000 miles from a
Yes.
glitch.
Yes, but
So
that
glad I
was
didn't
gone
jump
like
on that.
so quick. I know. I should have done it. I was like, I don't want to spend $500 on something, but it's like $500 for 300,000 miles. That's a good deal. So there are those once in a like blue moon type things that come around like that. So that would be my other thing was if it's really, really good, you're going to want to do it right away. Like, don't think about it, which I know sucks because a lot of us, we have budgets and we plan and all that kind of stuff. But those really big offers, if you don't click on those and get on those within like that first like 24 hours, it's not going to be there the next day.
Now, I do want to say, with Capital One, if you have the app on your phone, it will tell
Yep.
you when you log into the app, like what the offer of the day is for the whole week. So if you logged in today, you could see what the
Yep.
top offer of the day is for every day of the week, and then you can kind of pre-plan. Usually those rotate like Chewy, CVS. So like if you know that you're going to be due to buy some pet food or pet supplies really soon, then those are at the top a lot. So that would be a really great, easy way that you can just log in once, check when it's going to elevate, and then go and do it. Those are not targeted. Those are like everybody gets those. I also like
Yep.
the CVS option because sometimes they have in store to where you can either do it
Oh,
online or in store. And I've noticed they do that with CVS. And then I'm trying to remember where else I've seen that, but that's something you can also look at too. Ulta is always a good top one. So if you click on Ulta a lot and you need some new hair product, like if you have a beast of a mane like me, that's something I always try to watch for, like, when is it going to
I
be
love that.
elevated? Am I going to get a targeted Ulta offer? Because I need some new hair product.
Yep.
But I love that. And you know what else I saw recently? I saw a reel on Instagram, and I don't remember who posted it, but I had never used this, but now I do more. The categories option in Capital One. So instead of their aimlessly scrolling for however long, because that list never ends, right? Especially if
Yep.
you're looking for something specific, you can
Yep.
filter it by category and find it so much easier. And it should, I want to emphasize the word should, still show you the elevated offer by using the filter instead of the search bar.
I love that. That's a great tip. I don't think I've ever done that before. That's a really
Yeah,
good
I
one.
I just saw
Love
it a couple
that.
weeks ago and I'm like, why have I never thought to use the filters? I feel stupid
That's
now.
awesome. That's awesome. We're all learning. We're all always learning. Oh, so
That's
let's talk a little. I know. So let's talk a little bit more about the purchase eraser. So I love the purchase eraser because again, like we've talked about with like Disney and everything else, like it gets expensive and we want to be able to make these trips as little of out of pocket as possible. And a lot of times you can use these for Airbnbs as well, which I know is what another way a lot of us love to use them. Because sometimes, especially if you're a larger family, you can't fit in a hotel or you're going to need 2 or 3 rooms and that starts to add up really quick. So an Airbnb is a great way to be able to fit your whole family in one area and then you can take that purchase eraser and erase that. So it is kind of like using your points for hotels, but instead you're using it for your Airbnb.
Yeah, and I do want to add on to that. Okay, so if you are in your Capital One travel portal or in your Capital One account, online account, and you're thinking, what are they talking about? Purchase eraser, right? If you click on the little button over to the right on just your main Capital One homepage that says book travel or is it book travel or view rewards?
I think you can actually go either way through book travel or view rewards because there's a few different because the view rewards
different
looks like a
screens.
little present at the bottom, but
Here
you
we go.
also can go through book travel.
This is why I should have it pulled up in front of me as I'm trying to explain it verbally to someone. Anyway, so there is a little button that you can go and look at your rewards or book travel. Then it takes you to another screen that has a whole list of ways to use your points. And the first 3 are book travel, cover travel purchase, and transfer to partner. When we say purchase eraser, we are talking about the cover travel purchase. And the way that works is you must have a purchase on your account within the past 90 days on your credit card
Yep.
that codes as travel. So flights, hotels, undercover tourists, or like travel agencies may code. I know if you listened to our episode with Chelsea, she talked about all the hoops that she went through to make sure she coded as travel for Disney Vacation
Yep.
Club so that people like us who want to make sure we're covering all those charges the best we can. So those type of things will code as travel, which meaning that's how you can use that cover travel purchase, aka the purchase eraser. And the thing I love
Yep.
about it is if you don't have enough points to cover the entire amount, you can choose. So when I went
Yep.
to do my Disney tickets, I didn't have enough miles to cover all of it. So I just maxed out what I had and then left the rest of it on my statement. So I really like that too, is it's not an all or nothing.
I know that is really nice because sometimes too, even if you have the miles, you don't want to use all of your miles. So it is a great way to be, even for like, I've used it for my camper van for this September when
Oh
we
yeah.
go to Europe. I erased part of my camper van and then I also erased part of the taxes and fees on our flights. So it's kind of fun that you can kind of like pick and choose what you use it for versus like having to use it all up. And I think now I maybe have miles, so I don't have that many left, but I like to always have some for just in case, I don't want to max it out completely. So being able to pick that, I think is really nice. That's a great feature.
Yeah. And the key here is 90 days. So from the day you
Yep.
make your charge, you have 90 days to leverage that purchase eraser. So if you go out and you get a new Capital One Venture or Venture X today, and say you have a cruise you want to go on, you book a cruise, you pay for it on that card. Guess what?
Yep.
As soon as you meet that minimum and all of your miles from that welcome offer are dropped into your account, which should happen within that 90-day time frame, you can go back to that charge where you booked your cruise or whatever it may be and erase it right off. And this is also, we didn't talk about this, but this card is also really vital for a good cruising strategy. I'm not too
Yep.
much of a cruise person, but I know people that are, and this is a good card that they use for it.
It is. And I was actually thinking, Joy, I actually don't know the answer to this. And I wonder if you know the answer. Because we're talking about the 90 days, once you've had this card for a while, you're going to start getting your statements, every single month you have to pay your card. So if you want to erase something that was closer to that 90 days ago and you've already paid it off, would you just have a credit on your account that shows, I don't know, how would that work? You would, because that's the only thing I've always wondered is I've always done it in succession.
Immediate.
I do my, with like my camper van. I waited to book my camper van till I had my miles. And then the next week I erased it because I didn't want to have to pay for the purchase. So I think that would be the only thing, like my thinking with it would be you just have to be careful when you're getting close to that, like, 60, 90 days, because if it's a big purchase and you don't have the money for it, you would need the miles.
Yeah,
so
no.
you do kind of want to plan a little bit because otherwise
Yeah.
I think you'd get a statement credit, I think, but you wouldn't obviously get the money back into your checking account that you used to pay for it,
I actually have never thought about that. But I would assume, we all know what happens when you assume sometimes too, but I would assume that it would be the just statement credit. Like, so your statement balance would go negative, or just subtract off
It
whatever
would go
your
negative.
return
Yeah.
on
So
is.
that,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be the only thing I would be careful with the 90 days would just be, I think, when you first open the card, you always get longer, right? It's usually more than like that 30 days before it closes and you owe. But I think that would be the only thing I would be careful of is I would just be a little more intentional of planning it in that like 30-day window. That way, especially if it's something that, oh, I don't have $1,000 for Disney tickets and I'm going to erase it. You just want to make sure that you have those miles already there so you don't get into a pickle where you have to pay for it and you don't have the money for it,
Or you have a plan to meet that minimum, like at the 30, 40,
Yes.
60-day mark so that your miles. I will say that's the one nice thing about Capital One is they don't make you wait for your welcome offer miles to be deposited. They deposit them the minute you meet the minimum. At least they did for us. And I mean, that was a while ago. So I'm assuming it's still the same way on new cards.
Yep.
But I like
Yep.
that because some, like Chase, you have to wait until the statement cycle closes and then it's
You
added in,
do.
and there's just like prolonged waiting period that a lot of cards do, but Capital One doesn't, which is nice that you met it, it's there, they're yours.
I do really like that. That is a nice feature because, yeah, that is one really annoying thing about Chase. And like, I'll be like watching it because I don't want to wait a whole nother 30 days after this 30 days. So I'll be like frantically trying to finish up, especially if it's like $200 or something and you've got like 4 days. Sometimes I'll literally just, okay, I'm just going to buy this ahead for like the week after because I don't want to have to wait a whole nother 30 days before I'm going to get my miles, you know? So that is a really cool feature of Capital One.
Yeah, I do like that a lot. A lot. I really love the Capital One though. You know what else I really like? Most people knock on the travel portals when it comes to using it in
Yep.
general. And rule of thumb is it's not the best use of your points. But I will say we've gone places when we went to Scotland last year. I could not find a chain hotel to transfer my points to. So, and I had some Capital One miles, and that was the ones I needed to use. So I just went to the travel portal and I found such a cool little hotel in this little mountain town in Scotland. And it was like an old sheriff's office with jail cell rooms. And it was just a really cool, unique experience. And it wasn't expensive. I mean, I feel like using it for those obscure places that you can't necessarily find, like the big hotels, is kind of fun too.
Yeah, it really is. I love that. And I think that's the thing where you just have to do your research. You know, I would say for me personally, most of the time, the travel portal is never going to be a better option. But like Joy said, there are instances where you find really good deals in the travel portal. So it's definitely worth when you're planning a trip to make sure to check both just to be certain that you're not going to find a better deal in the travel portal.
You know the other cool thing about the Capital One Travel portal, I don't know if I can talk. I don't know how much time you've spent in there or if you've ever looked for flights, but they have on their calendar, they tell you how busy
Yep.
that time frame is. And so it'll say extremely busy, not busy, better to book this. So if you go to look for a flight, it'll tell you if that's a good time to book that flight for value or not. And I like that it tells you that in the Capital One travel portal. So sometimes it's a good cross reference point just to say, am I being smart right now or not?
Mm-hmm. And you can track it too. So I've only ever used it once because that's how I used my $300 travel credit last year on my Venture X was for flights to Travelmore conference. And you can hit this little button that says track, and Capital One will email you when the flight drops. So that way you can go ahead and book it once it gets cheaper. So that's kind of nice too. Sometimes if you're not quick enough though, like the one time I missed it and the next day it was back up again. So that is, if it's like a really important flight that you're trying to track, you're just going to need to make sure that you're checking your email multiple times a day, so you don't miss that alert. But that is kind of cool that they'll alert you too for it. So I like that.
I didn't know they did that. See, we all learn new things.
Yep. I love it. Yeah, I know. Cause normally I don't do that, but I got I think my flights round trip to Travelmore, I got them for $302. So I only paid $2 out of pocket because I just kept waiting and waiting for it to drop to the price that I wanted. And that was when I booked it and was good to go. So yeah, I definitely think being able to track that is a great feature, especially if you know you're going to need to pay cash for a flight.
Awesome. Okay, so the last part of Capital One miles for using them is going to be the transfer to partner tool. Now, this is the one for people that are new to points and miles, or that are maybe you're listening and you're thinking this sounds really cool, but you're way over my head. This is only comes on those specific cards, and it's called transfer to partner. And what it means is you basically turn your Capital One miles into Virgin Air miles, or you turn them into Wyndham Rewards or Japan Airlines, and they have a whole list of partners that they transfer to. So there's
Yep.
some really sweet spots. And when people talk about like getting their flights for 3 times the value or stretching their points farther. This is what they mean. They're using that transfer to partner tool. And like Capital One, if you want to go to Japan, this is one of the best cards to have because it does partner directly with Japan Airlines and unlocks amazing value to get to Japan. I like it because for people that if it's the only card they have, they go to Qantas Airlines. Now, hear me out, but they go to Qantas, and Qantas is a partner of American. So you
Yep.
can search American Airlines flights on QantasAirlines.com, move your Capital One miles to Qantas, and still have an American Airlines flight to get you around the United States. And there's just a fun little sweet spots. Now, using their transfer to partner tool is a little bit more complicated on the Capital One. So if you want to use it that way, I would definitely do some homework first. It's not as easy as like Chase is to use because the partners are a little bit more intermediate.
Yep. But yeah, I agree. I love transferring my miles that way. I'm kind of kicking myself because for our camper van trip that we have this September, I erased that. Normally I don't, but I was like, I'm just going to try to make this trip as little out of pocket as possible. And then I think it was literally 2 weeks later, they announced that they were going to partner with Japan Airlines. And I was like, really? I would have saved them because at that time they had that transfer bonus with it too when they first announced it. So it was a really good time to move your miles over there. And I had none left that it was worth doing anything with. So I was really bummed because I would love to go to Japan. And I think if I would have had the miles, I would have probably maybe transferred them for that. But I used them up on the purchase eraser, which it's okay. It's good. But yeah, it's always kind of nice having those extra miles in there that you can transfer to the travel partners because that's where you're going to really get the value because anytime you erase, it's always going to be 1x. So it's, 1 cent per point, so 10,000 points is $100, right? So that's it, where that 10,000 points, let's say like Joy was talking, you transfer it to Qantas for an American Airlines domestic flight. Maybe you're going to be able to get a $500 American Airlines flight out of that. So you are going to get more value. But again, there are times where things are just really expensive and we want to spend as little out of pocket as possible. And the purchase eraser gives us the ability to do that.
Well, luckily, Michelle, you know all the tricks to earn a lot more Capital One miles.
Yeah.
Through their
Yes.
offers, which is honestly
Yes.
like a gold mine sometimes. I sit there and I think about, okay, my kids need some new shoes. These are the brands they like. They're not going to have, sometimes you might find like Dick's Sporting Goods or Academy or something on there, but usually you're going to find Adidas, you're going to find Under Armour, you're going to find all the major brands, so you can just click through there and go. Same with any product that you buy. If you're going to go get something on Amazon, look at the brand name, go to Capital One offers, filter by category, and scroll and see if it's on there. And that's what I really like because it just tells you it's just shifting the way that you're making your purchases. You're being a little bit more intentional, taking a little bit more time on it maybe, but the reward that you will get will be very, very great, especially if it becomes something that you end up like repeating on there, then they'll target you for bigger offers. So airport parking, I get 30 times the dollar because I get targeted for those now because I've used it so many times. Yeah. So just if you're going to be taking trips, just start doing the airport parking stuff on there. You'll get targeted. And if it's something you don't have to buy right away, just start clicking for a couple days for like a week and then go back and check. You might jump up and be targeted.
Yep. I love that. Those are all really good tips. Yep. 100%. And again, if you're overwhelmed with points and miles or you're just starting out, again, you can literally put all of your purchases on your card. If you happen to have the Venture X is still Visa, which a lot of us are Costco shoppers. So you can use your Venture X at Costco, which is what I do. Sometimes I also will get gift cards through Staples with my Chase Ink Cash. But when I'm lazy and don't want to do that, I just put everything on my Capital One Venture X because I'm always getting that 2X like we were talking about. So this is a great card. Just start putting all of your everyday expenses on the card. pay them off every single month. And you're going to start to see all of those miles slowly rack up over time. So if everything else feels overwhelming, that's the easiest thing you can do is literally just start to put all of your purchases on your Capital One card, and you're going to start to see all those miles coming in.
The goal is to earn more than 1 times per dollar spent on every purchase.
Yes.
And the Capital One
100%.
Venture or Venture X is the easy button to guarantee that you are earning 2 times on dollar spent.
Yep. If this episode was helpful, it would mean so much to us if you left a 5-star review and shared it with a friend who wants to travel more without spending a fortune. And if you're ready to start using your points and miles in a way that actually works for your family, make sure you're following along. We are always sharing simple, realistic ways to turn everyday spending into unforgettable trips. We will see you in the next episode.